Hello physios. Now we will learn on furthermore pathological gaits. Now we have showing in this slide high stepping gait. It is also called as foot drop gait. What happens during this on when you are stepping to the ground with the help of the heel, your ankle goes into dorsiflexion. If your dorsiflexors are paralyzed, immediately the plantar flexors will be overact. It means your dorsiflexors are getting paralyzed, your plantar flexors going to be acting. During heel strike, due to foot drop, your toes goes and gets contact first. So, in order to avoid, the person flexes the hip. There is hip flexion and they will be rising of the foot, and slowly he will keep the foot on the floor. It is seen in some polio, some MD, that is your muscular dystrophy cases. It is called as high stepping gait or foot drop gait, or sometimes the patient can also drag the foot and without flexing the hip and raising on the floor. That is dragging gait. We can also call as high stepping gait or also dragging gait. What happens? The main things to be remembered up: dorsiflexors are paralyzed, your plantar flexors to be acting up. Then hip flexion, slowly rising the foot and keeping on the floor. And next, the patient can also be without flexing the hip, he can raising the foot and slowly placing on the ground. High stepping gait or toe dragging gait. Next, fascinate gait, which you will be seen mainly in the Parkinson gait, or also called as Parkinson gait, which is mostly seen in Parkinson. What happens? The patient mainly adopts some flexed posture of the trunk. You can see in the picture, the patient is flexing the trunk. This is the main reason. Not only the trunk, he also flexing the neck and slide some amount of hip. If we see in laterally, you can see there is some slightly flexion of hip too. So, because of the flexed posture, your center of gravity will falls and the patient moves only in short steps. So, the patient will have moving in only shorting steps and there will be lack of heel strike and toe off. This is your gait, fascinate gait. So, in this gait, heel strike is absent. So, toe strikes first. Hence, it is also called as toe heel gait. Toe will be first rising up and there is absence of heel. Also called as toe heel gait or fascinate gait or Parkinson gait. Next, ataxic gait. In this, there are two types which you can be seen in cerebellar and sensory ataxia. When coming into the cerebellar ataxia, there will be some lacking of the coordinated movements. Hence, the gait pattern resembles like drunkard gait. Like I have seen a picture. I will use some picture also. This is your drunkard's gait at last. Yeah, this is drunkard's gait. Can't be described much. A drunkard gait is a fashion of walking that is seen in a patient with some cerebellar lesions. So, the patient can walk with some wide base of support or narrow base of support. The patient moves forwards, backwards, and laterally. Sometimes he fell down. So, this is a drunkard's gait. If we see ataxia in sensory ataxia, it means it is due to it is seen in some tabes dorsalis. The patient raises the foot. What happens? The patient will raises the foot in air, but with some small amount of force he will keep it down. He will keep it down with small amount of he will keep his foot in the air. And next, from forward there is certain manner and he will stamp on the floor. So due to lack of some kinesthetic sensation or joint position, this gait pattern looks like he is going to place in a air, or he is going to put his leg in a some space. That is your space gait or ataxic gait. That he is might placing his leg on the space. This tells about your ataxic gait. Next, equinus gait. You can see in the picture, he is placing the leg on toes. Hence, can also be called as toe walking. Usually, you can see in child, like it is also habit in children. It is due to some neuromuscular disorders, or the muscle is spasticity. It is due to the loss of function of some anterior muscle groups of lower limb, like you have tibialis anterior muscle, extensor hallucis longus, extensor digitorum longus, peroneus tertius, and your thigh, anterior thigh muscles, like you're having quadriceps muscles, and it might be involve one foot or both the foot. Next, equinovarus foot. You can see the both foot are getting into downward and inward, and the patient walks in this manner. You can see in some disorders like cerebral palsy, muscular dystrophy, spina bifida. It involves one foot or both the foot. Next comes your calcaneal gait. Calcaneal gait tells about, in the word, the patient able to walk only on the calcaneum or heel, with some ankle goes into dorsiflexion, and your plantar flexors get to be in paralyzed. It is seen in some polio patients. While walking, you can be observed there is foot flat complete, there is absence of foot flat, and mid stance there is toe off. You can able to see only the heel off and heel strike with some completely. There is absence of foot flat, mid stance, and toe off. So the patient can walk only on the heel or calcaneum. That is your calcaneal gait, which you can be seeing in polio patients. Next, genu recurvatum gait. It is also seen in some polio patients. It is due to the paralysis of your hamstrings muscles. So that's what your knees goes into some hyperextension of knee while transferring some amount of weight in some mid stance. It is seen in some polio patients. Genu recurvatum gait. Next comes your knock knee and bow knee. Together have been placed. You can see knock knee, your knees are closer together and your ankles are making some distance. This is your knock knee. You can also be checked on normal standing whether you are touching your knees or ankles. In bow legs, it is opposite. Your ankles are getting touched, whereas your knees are some making a separation, a distance. In knock knees, it takes some overpronates. So knock knee is opposite to the bow knee. It is seen in polio rarely. Drunkard's gait have been discussed. Thanks for watching SPN.